All right, so here we go again. This is like the third take on recording this, so let's see if I can speed this up a little bit. I'm trying to make a correction from the last video and then add some documentation to back up the genealogy. It's been a daunting task, to say the least. It gets confusing, it gets hazy, your eyes get tired, and yeah, I've been working on this all week. Again, over the last 2, 3 years has been, off and on and off and on, but finally seem to have cracked the nut. All right, let's start off with the family tree that I had showed in the previous PowerPoint, which is this one that I'm showing now. I'm just going to start off right out of the box with our grandfather, actually, Jose de Raigosa. We all know, we all knew him at one time. We just probably met once or twice. And then his father, who was Macedonio, completely provable through family testimony and documents. So I'm not going to take too much time with that. Sorry. I went with, I don't know why I went with Jose, but let's go with Cesario. That's our great grandfather or great great grandfather, which also verifiable through family testimony. And then to Crispin, again, it's family testimony has corroborated that, but it does get hazy at that point because now we're talking about 1800s. So the documentation is all there. We don't need to get too involved with that because we know family history, family testimony over the last few generations that these are all verifiable names. Problem here becomes where we get into bridging the gap from that point to these guys. Our oldest found ancestor to documentation, Luis de Raigosa, and then Francisco de Raigosa. And the connection between Francisco, Brigida, and her lineage, which connects us to Spanish nobility, pretty much. So, and the people that first settled the area, the region in Mexico from which our family was concentrated in for so many centuries. So bear with me here as we work our way through the documentation to prove all this. All right, so I'm going to skip on over here real quick and go back down on our family tree to the one that I had just mentioned earlier, Crispin. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your mind. We're not going to go too much into too much detail between the three generations before that one as we get into the ones closer to the older ancestors, just to save a little time and not to lose you guys because it gets pretty it's a rabbit trail to put it that way. And we're going to start off with Marcos Raigosa Reyes. Raigosa Reyes was his last name. In this documentation, we do show a baptism record because it says here bautice, baptism. Something about los santos. But the main part here is Marcos, hijo de Luis de Raigosa. You can see that fairly clearly. And of Melchora de los Reyes. R-E-I-E-S. Españoles. Spaniards. Interestingly enough, it shows the Godfather, Padrinos. I think it's Ignacio, it looks like, Rodriguez. And can't quite make the name on this one. Maria, maybe? I really can't make the name. But you can make the last name, de Raigosa. So family members who were godfathers. Maybe an aunt and then an uncle. But interesting enough, we see the double S on Raigosa, while we see just one S up here. So just want to make a point here that the name has changed over the generations, been misspelled so many times. For the most part, it is Raigosa. For the most part, that's what I've seen over and over, except a few documents where it gets misspelled to Raygoza. It's all connected. It's all same family, though. And this was a common occurrence a lot of times with last names or names. And as we get, in the older periods of Mexico. So we make that document observation. How do we connect Marcos to Luis Raigosa? We just did, okay, because we have made the connection to Luis again and Melchora, which is right here. Luis Melchora. And let me zoom in a tad bit. Luis Melchora. Luis had a brother by the name of Josef Cayetano de Raigosa. They show the same parents. So I'm going to show this one here. I'm not too sure. I don't want to get too lost in the weeds here. That's the problem. Let's see. Francisco de Raigosa, hijo de Luis. I think that goes to a further generation back, but let's just look at this document right here. So Luis or Josef Cayetano shows right here. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. Not that much. Josef Cayetano de Raigosa. Now this one, again, it gets misspelled. Reigosa, Rei, Españoles. And then it goes here and it shows hijo legítimo de Francisco de Raigosa, Raigosa, y Brígida de Miramontes. So there it shows that connection between those, the father and mother of Josef Cayetano to Francisco and Brígida de Miramontes. On this one here, let's just take a quick look on this one. See what this one shows real quick. Okay, so yes, here's the Raigosa connection, but this is the Ursula, so I put this in the wrong family name, or the wrong guy, the wrong Luis, I think. And this should have actually gone to this one right here, because that's Francisco de Raigosa, son of Luis de Raigosa. That's shown in that documentation. Now, the bridge, the connection to Brígida de Miramontes, the one that leads us to the Spanish connection of the settlers there in Mexico and quite likely nobility of Spain. Before I click off of that, Francisco de Raigosa, hijo de Luis de Raigosa y de Juana Úrsula de Tobar. Okay, so we did go over that, right? So Luis de Raigosa, yeah, Brígida Úrsula de Tobar, Españoles. And there's Francisco de Raigosa, Raigosa. Let's see here. Hijo legítimo, legitimate son of Luis de Raigosa. Okay, so Francisco, son of Luis de Raigosa. Francisco, son of Luis de Raigosa. And Juana Úrsula, Huizar y Tobar. That's the expanded name. And here in this document, they just put Brígida Úrsula de Tobar. They didn't put the whole expanded name of hers, Juana Úrsula Huizar y Tobar. All right, so here we go with Brígida daughter of Lorenzo. On this particular record, what we show, and let's see here if there's any further ones before okay, so here's the documentation I showed of Josef Cayetano, who married Catarina. And I can't make out her name on that one. I can't make out her name. But she is Española. But that was a marriage record that I just showed right now to you guys, Josef Cayetano. Well, here it is on this one too, where we connect now Brigida to Lorenzo, or Juan de Miramontes, and Brigida de Urrutia. God, this has gotten so tough to try to show all this, but okay, let's tackle this one for a sec. If we click this right here, Lorenzo de Miramontes, this right here is a baptism record, if I'm not mistaken, of Bautice. It's gonna say Bautice right here. And this is from the 20th of July, Julio, of 630, and 8 years, 1638. The baptism of Lorenzo, Español, son of, legitimately, of Juan de Miramontes and Brigida Ortiz de Urrutia. You can see it right here. De Urrutia, Ortiz, Brigida. That's a baptismal record. And again, Brigida Ortiz de Urrutia, Juan de Miramontes. This is the Juan de Miramontes that I showed from Wikipedia yesterday, which I'm going to show the page real quick. And how it all connects to the Bobadilla family, the Miramontes, which were all big names in that territory in Mexico at the time, and descended from nobility in Spain. So they all intermarried. There was a lot of, I'm sure, ancestral relationships trying to keep their nobility pure. But that's how it wraps up. I hope I made the right connections with you guys, that it's pretty compelling. I hope I didn't miss anything. If I did, I apologize, but the documentation is there. Let's review this one just as a last resort. These are just hints right here, so I haven't actually approved this one. So Brigida de Miramontes, marriage. Yeah, she couldn't have married a Miramontes too, so it may be erroneous. Let's see if there's another one here. There we go. Brigida de Miramontes' spouse, Francisco de Raigosa, which that's how I show it right here. Child, they had Josef. And there are other records that show Luis also. And that's where it's all connected to our family. And that those Spanish Miramontes and Bobadillas. As a last little point here, again, this is the Wikipedia page, you guys, for Latenango de Sanchez Roman, and the mention of Pedro Bobadilla. And if you watch the previous video, I'll get into a little more detail on how that must have played out. But they did. It says right here that they married, had offspring with indigenous women. They were spreading their seed, pretty much. I mean, it's no surprise that that's what they were doing back then, aside from their wives. And where is the mention of? There's Bobadilla. Oh, Miramontes. Here we go. And here we go. Juan de Miramontes, also a Spaniard. mestizo woman, married. So, thanks, guys, for hanging in there with me. It's been a daunting task, but it's been worth it.